Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba, everyone. I love that with a click of the button. Here we are, simulcasting worldwide on the internet's largest Teams phone only show. Welcome to Everything Teams Phone Live, everyone. I'm Rick G, and you've got, who's this guy over here?
I'm on the other side, I think, but Brandon with G12.
You got Brandon with G12 there. Let's turn that thing down right there.
Yeah, and I have to eat. I have to eat crow. I have to eat crow one more time because last week I very matter of factly said last show of the summer, and here I am. We're now officially on the last show of the summer.
This is it now.
Welcome to the last show of the summer.
Blair, how do you feel about that, Blair, being part of the last show of the summer?
I'm thrilled to be part of the last show of the summer, but I'm sorry that summer's over.
I agree with you there. Well, that's everyone. I do want to take a moment to introduce Blair Pleasant. Blair, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Blair.
Thanks for having me.
You put out a paper, and Blair, I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself in just a second, but you put out a paper that was about automation and AI. Brandon and I, color us intrigued. We were interested in understanding more, and we wanted to figure out how it works with teams and how we can kind of dream up team solutions to accomplish these things. So we thought, let's invite Blair to the show, and you certainly accepted. So thank you so much. Blair, tell us about you and what you do today.
Okay, so I'm an independent industry analyst. My company is Confusion, and I'm also part of the BC Strategies team. That's business communication strategies. So there's a whole group of us, and we write and talk about anything business communications related. So UC and contact center are big parts of it. So as an analyst, I cover two things: so unified communications and collaboration, and also contact center and CX types of things. And I've been doing this a long time and seen a lot of the changes. And every time I think things are getting boring and dull, something new comes along, like AI and automation.
Yeah, it just changes on you. Now, you and I met a couple of years ago, I think, and it was related to contact center. I think we did a video series about contact center engagement, and I don't remember the platform that we did it, but we certainly talked about CX back then, right? And this is, again, not 2 years ago, isn't terribly long ago, but things have changed dramatically. You're right. Things have changed dramatically from 2 years ago in how the contact center world is addressing automation, AI, the customer experience. That customer experience, if you're a consumer, the business communications world is always looking at ways to really increase that efficiency. Whether and look, there's no altruistic meaning behind it. It's number one, it's going to be, yes, how can I serve you better so you can keep paying us as an organization? And number two, if you're not paying us as an organization, how can I show you that I'm better so that you can pay us as an organization? So it's super simple, right? But there's so many cool ways that we're engaging with automation and AI today. Why don't you, Blair, if you don't mind, what does automation and AI mean in the communications world? If you could what strategies are you seeing by different applications and platforms out there? What does that look like today?
So if we're looking at it from the CX and customer service and contact center side of things, I look at it two different ways. So you can use AI and automation to help the agent and to help the customer. So on the customer side, self-service. We've all used self-service. That's been around for a while. But now with AI, it's just changing everything. We've got generative AI that's we know is taking over the world and changing everything, and things like conversational AI, so you can talk naturally to the chatbot or to whatever, it's replacing, we all hate the IVR and having the, press 1 for sales, and then you go down, 10 different layers of, the IVR menus. We don't have to do that anymore. With conversational AI, you can just say, I need this, and it'll come back and route you to the right person, or, give you information or whatever. So we've got the self-service side of things, and that's chatbots, which again, chatbots have been around for a while, but now they're getting better. We've all had horrible experiences with chatbots where it didn't understand what you're saying, or it just comes back with something totally off the wall. But again, that was like 2 years ago. Now you can try it, and it's like, wow, it works now. So So things are really improving on that end. So that's on the customer facing side. On the agent facing side, it'll be things like agent assist, where it'll provide information to the agent, so the agent doesn't have to, go searching for, the answer and, say, let me put you on hold while I look this up or whatever. The AI will be listening for keywords, and it'll say, oh, this is what the customer is looking for. Here's what you need, some information for you to tell them, or, here's the answer, or here's what you should be asking them. So it'll be in the background guiding and coaching the agent to provide, the right information.
How exciting is that? Like for businesses, I'm a business owner. So how exciting is it to be able to deliver those services? I mean, again, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you want to deliver services like this, or why you want to engage your customer as tightly as that. But it is so amazing what you can accomplish now. And you're absolutely right. 2 years ago, if you engage with a chatbot, you're just like, I just want to pick up a phone and make a phone call, right? Yep. Today, just a really quick example. I think it was Expedia. I went to a hotel and I was booking a hotel and I need to extend my stay. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to make a call and talk to them and go, do you have availability for, to extend my stay? I thought it was going to be a big hassle. And I purposely went to the website. I tried self-service because I was interested in, seeing what it was like. And this was probably 3 months ago. And I walk through and it says, what would you like to do? And I'm like, I'd like to extend my stay. It knew exactly what I needed. How long would you like to extend your stay? I'm like, one more night. They sent me a new confirmation. Here's your new confirmation. You're done. Like it probably took me 2 minutes, if not less than that, to do that task, when I thought it was going to take a 10-minute phone call or a 15-minute phone call to get through to someone and say, this is what I actually need. Brandon, chatbots. What do you think about chatbots these days, Brandon?
Yeah, I was gonna, real quick before we hit chatbots, I was gonna, talk about a real world experience with agent assist in the contact center, because Blair, you mentioned it. And what you don't know, Blair, is I come from a background of contact center in a previous lifetime, and watching and building that integration from legacy mindset of calling through the IVR and waiting and digging and being put on hold and trying to get your answer to. In this scenario, we were working with a really big automotive company, manufacturer, won't say the name, where we built the AI agent assist side, where the call would come in, automatically route to the appropriate agent. And then, like, the example here would be, I'm calling in and I need to replace, say, the air filter on my car. And I'm sitting in the auto parts store with 2 different models of air filter, and I'm not sure which one it is. So real time, using conversational AI, we were listening to the conversation, generating all of that using AI to automatically pop the data for the agent and to confirm that answer for that model. And it just phenomenal how real time and how fast these solutions deliver that CX experience to the customer. And it is game changing when you can take a call that may have taken that customer maybe 30 minutes or longer to 5 minutes, and they're not even 5 minutes, and they're done and on their way with and then this doing sentiment analysis to realize, man, we took our customer sentiment and we took it from neutral to positive, all because we shortened their experience and made it a positive outcome. Mm-hmm. So that's just one real world example there.
Is that like the Zen for businesses? I mean, for the customer to be able to get what they want when they want, mm-hmm. the answer is that what we find as sort of the ideal spot for consumers or for businesses to be able to deliver to consumers? Is that what we're thinking?
Yeah, because when you talk to customers and you ask, what are you looking for, or what really pisses you off when you have a bad interaction, they don't want to wait too long to talk to an agent. They don't want to be on hold forever. They don't want to be transferred around from agent to agent to agent, and they want to get the correct information. So getting the right information from a knowledgeable, helpful, if possible, friendly agent, that's what people want. And mm-hmm. So yeah, that really is the nirvana, to be able to get that information quickly, efficiently, and accurately. and just make the customer happy and have them feel like they had a good experience and it wasn't painful.
And on any medium, I'm assuming, right? Because right now you would speak with an agent, and that's your voice, sort of, that's audio, your voice, and then you've got, messaging. And what's interesting is I was working with a company a couple of years ago. It was pretty interesting. Their solution was, I think the example I'll use was medical scheduling, and the medical scheduling was completely automated. Okay. So, and what I thought was interesting, it was, you would call in. If you remember years ago when was it Bart that was introduced to Google, and he said, you're just talking, you don't know if I need to schedule a haircut, and I need to do the schedule a reservation for the restaurant, and those sorts of things. And it was like that in the healthcare space. I thought it was pretty interesting. You'd call in and it'd say, thank you for calling, XYZ Dental or whatever it was. And the customers, are you an existing customer? What's your name? What's your number? And it grabs some information, and the person you knew was automated, but not. You could maybe think that it's maybe real. It was pretty interesting, and so it went through a series of discussional sort of, or just topical questions, or questions that it needed to decipher some of the information on who you were and validate who you were. I'm going to send you a quick text message to validate your, who you are. And so it did all these things, and it scheduled your meeting for you. So what's interesting to me is this has gotten way better now. And now we do a lot of messaging and self-service via messaging, right? As I think as consumers start to, or the consumer now is the consumer that's grown up with mobile devices, grown up with the internet, grown up with all, right? So they're used to that automated, let me get what I want from the internet or from the company that I'm looking to do business with. And so now I'm curious about that company that I was talking about, because I'm curious how much better now that solution is, because I can imagine a world when you call, great, you can call if that's what you'd like to do, but I can do the automation and AI, real-time intelligence and service delivery via voice, or I could do it via messaging, right? I mean, those are those the two mediums really that we try to achieve. That's like, can we get parity on both voice and messaging, you think?
Yeah, so they are different channels, but they are the two most popular. And email also, a lot of people use email for customer service, surprisingly so. But, when they use email, they can, include documents and pictures and things. So some people, for certain situations, people like using email. But I'd say right now, chat or messaging and voice are the most popular or common. And it's really interesting because people think, the younger people, they don't want to use voice. They just, want to use messaging and text and whatever. And a study that I did showed that, younger people still want to use voice, when it's a complex issue, or if it's something really personal, maybe, or if they want that, information right then, and, it's time urgent. And then older people like me, I'll go on Twitter, X, whatever it is now, and say, hey, Comcast, my, cable is down. What do I do? Because I know that I'm going to get a response quicker that way than if I, call 800 and go through all the things. So we used to look at different channels based on, age and, demographics, but that's really not the case. Older people like using messaging and younger people like using voice. And so it's really across the board. It depends on the issue that you're calling about, again, how complex it is, how time sensitive it is. So voice is still really, really popular and important. And then messaging and chat. And then things like, WhatsApp, we don't use that as much in the US,
Right.
but if you go outside of the US, WhatsApp is huge. And
yep.
So I know a lot of companies are adding that to their channel mix because they know that that's really important. And that paper that you referred to earlier, we did talk about actually a taxi company in Amsterdam that made it possible for customers to reach them using WhatsApp. So instead of calling an Uber, you could just open WhatsApp and get in touch with this taxi company. So it really allowed this 100 or however many year old taxi company to become more competitive with like Uber and Lyft and become more modern.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What a cool, so see, that's a cool solution, right? When you can modernize an organization and put tools that are maybe not on par with an Uber or Lyft, but pretty darn close, right? To be able to deliver something to them that's huge business benefit. Speaking of voice, Brandon, we forgot at the beginning of the show. We do this every show, Blair, and we forgot to do it. And I'm going to have to clear my throat, Brandon. So I'm going to have to leave the rest of this up to you. Go for it.
Oh yes, that's my fault for derailing and talking about the woes of summer ending. But no, we forgot to announce our weekly headset giveaway for this 𝗘𝗃𝗃𝗵𝗶 BH71 Pro Bluetooth headset. I've not personally used it, but Rick, you say it's a nice sounding headset. It's comfortable, got great battery life. It's got a great carrying case. Yeah, so we're here to give it away for the listeners on. All you got to do is ask an intriguing question, a stumping question, or make a comment that generates interesting conversation. So
yeah, that's
ask away. That's it. Comment away.
There you go. That's what you get. It's pretty nice. It is. It's got like 20 plus hours of like talk time or something like that. It's I've used it more now in the last few weeks. We've given it away. I've used it more and more, and it's we're not sponsored by 𝗘𝗃 or anything like that, but it's something that we like, and so I thought we'd give these things away. So if you have any question, like Brandon said, we'll give you one. Ask away. Okay. Sorry. I didn't mean to derail that conversation because that was, I was just thinking about voice. I did want to agree with you, Blair. I think you're exactly right in that voice is not going anywhere as an example, because as much as we like messaging and self-service online, I had literally an hour before this call, I had a call from my son, who is 20 years old and is buying his first motorcycle. He's ridden motorcycles forever, but he's buying a motorcycle on his own. He said, I'm going to go buy this motorcycle. He's in a different state now. And he said, I need to go rent a trailer. And he didn't really know how to rent a trailer. You know, he's calling U-Haul and trying to figure it out, but he's calling. That was where he's like, he didn't go online to go reserve a trailer because he wasn't comfortable with the solution or with how to do things just yet. He felt like he needed the comfort of talking to someone. So he made a phone call and was talking to, and he said, I had to go through a couple of different people to get to where, you know, they had the solution that he was looking for, which is a motorcycle trailer. But I was surprised because he is 20 years old and, you know, they've grown up on a mobile device and everything is like, oh, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And now it's like, he made a phone call and he was calling to tell me that he made a phone call. How funny is that?
I actually did a little focus group with my kids when they had some friends over one time. And I asked that question, you know, what channel or device do you use when you need to contact customer service? And I was amazed that most of them said that they will use voice and, you know, they'll pick up the phone and make a phone call. I was really surprised about that. Yeah,
absolutely. It's good to hear because it is, I view voice as, I'm going to say this and I might get some bad feedback here, but it's intrusive. Right? Voice is intrusive, right? When you need to get something done, ask Brandon. I don't message Brandon. I message him all throughout the day, but when I really need Brandon, I call him up, you know, and I'm like, and it's intrusive and I need something. And that's like, here's what I need. And can you help me with this, Brandon? And most of the time he says no, but you know, he's there to answer the phone. So voice is that intrusive. Here's what I need. So it's in a time where you've got to get answers for yourself. Well, let's interesting questions. We've got some questions coming in, Blair. So we're going to answer some real life questions. A couple of questions here. I'll put the first one up here that I see. It says, how does the AI plus voice look like? What does it look like in the coming few years, in the coming years?
Yeah, so it's going to look different. I mean, some things are going to be the same, but things are definitely going to be different, you know, and again, it's AI is just changing everything. So there's going to be a lot more self-service, but it's going to work better, you know, like we talked about. So kind of what I mentioned earlier with, you know, conversational AI and generative AI, you know, customers are going to be able to interact more naturally and conversationally, you know, with the bots and with whatever to solve their problems. And also when the customer does need to, you know, talk to a live agent after interacting with, you know, the chat bot or whatever, the information that just happened with the interaction will be passed off to the live agent. I mean, it happens now, but there's still, it's still a little clunky.
Yeah, there's some clunkiness in there.
I saw, and Blair, I don't know if you've seen this. I saw a really intriguing video on LinkedIn. I can't remember who put it out, but it was a simulated scenario. I think it was of a car dealership that was doing sales touch points where they were reaching out to prospect customers that may be interested in certain cars. And the whole conversation, it was a phone call out to the customer, but the whole conversation was AI generated from the dealership perspective, asking questions around, you know, if you had to pick from these cars, what's your preference? What are you looking for in a car? Like asking all of the questions a salesperson would be asking, all AI generated. And I think that's, back to that question of what does it look like in the coming years? That's, I think, a huge scenario right there.
I'm going to delete this whole section, that whole discussion. I'm going to delete that, because what that sounds like to me is automated robocalls. Smart robocalls is basically what you just said. Smart robocalls are gonna help auto dealers generate more sales. Is that
hopefully the clients have consented to the phone call as a prospect, but there's still that whole consent thing. And then I remember part of the discussion on that video. The other piece is what happens in the call recording scenario when one side is AI and it's a two-party consent system. Anyway, that's totally off topic, but
I'm going to call this out. I'm going to just bring this back, as Matt's asking this question and talking to an AI or a real person. I think that's what's interesting, Matt. And I think that's where this is going to be really, I think in a few years, and Blair, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but I think in a few years, and I think your study, Blair, said at the end of 2024, we were going to have quite a bit, and from a percentage perspective, I don't recall, I think it was 70 or 80% or whatever it was, of AI sort of driven customer service. And so that would be, and people don't know that they're using AI today as an example, but that's whether it's voice or whether it's messaging or whether it's any sort of online engagement in some way, shape or form, right? That there is going to be sort of AI and automation behind that communication or that interaction. And where I think this is going is, and Matt, this is where you're Matt's thinking, I think on a phone call here. Obviously, everyone knows bots for the most part are going to be AI driven. I mean, we're all trained in the automated responses that our chat sort of platforms deliver to us today, whether you're on Facebook or Teams or whatever is right. The autocomplete, those sorts of things, that's AI generated. Yeah. But on phone calls, and if I'm calling into an organization, am I talking to someone real or am I talking to AI? And I think that's a really valid question. Yeah. Because I think it's going to be not largely AI, but a good portion of that would be AI. What do you think, Blair?
Yeah. So we talk a lot about best practices, and one of the best practices right now is to let customers know when they are talking to, a chatbot or a robot or whatever, because otherwise people, they feel deceived if they think they're talking to a person and they're not. And people don't like that when they're, if they feel that someone's trying to pull one over on them. So sometimes if you're in a chat bot, doing a web chat or something, you might see like that little Android looking type character. So that lets you know you're talking to a bot and not a real person. Because otherwise, people are like, typing in questions, to try to fool it and to try to find out, are you a bot or are you real? And you just want to do that. You want to be upfront and honest with people. So it's, and sometimes you'll even hear the bot say, I'm a bot, I'm still learning. Can you rephrase that or ask the question in a different way or something? So again, it's that transparency and not trying to, trick people.
Let's talk about penetration of solutions into the business world, into the normal. I'm going to call it the normal mainstream. Maybe I'm talking about SMB as an example, because if you're talking about large corporations that have unlimited sort of budgets and ability to deliver on newest technologies, whether you're an airline as an example, or whether you're Amazon, you've got all the tools available to you and you're in the tech world, so to speak, and you kind of know how to deliver sort of, the latest features, right? But even UCaaS as an example, right, where cloud communications, what are we still like 35% penetrated into the marketplace, something like that, So even then, we've got 65% of the world still out on legacy phone systems and using legacy phone type type of service, right? So there's still a lot of that stuff out there. So how does this sort of technology, and what do you see, trickle down into kind of that, I'll call it mainstream business? Is that what does that vehicle look like? Because ultimately, it seems to me like that takes a long time to kind of get through to your tire shop or your oil change shop, or people you would call, I've got a cracked window. I mean, I'm using automotive references here, but I'm thinking of like locations that maybe I've called in recent years, right? People that you want to, what are your hours or whatever it may be, right? So how long do you think that sort of solution takes to get into that sort of mainstream business?
Yeah, it's going to take a while to get into the SMBs, frankly, mostly because of price. A lot of it, the smaller guys just can't afford some of these solutions. But what's happening is that you're not going to be buying AI. It's like you're not going to go to your vendor and say, I want to buy AI. What you're going to do is buy a solution, and you're going to buy, capabilities and functionality that do what you need them to do. And oh, by the way, there's some AI in the background that's helping. So you might get workforce management, and some of it is going to have AI helping it. So you're not just buying AI for the solution, you're buying it as part of or as part of an overall solution that's going to help you. You're not just buying the AI technology. So the vendors are just embedding the technology into their solutions. Sometimes you pay extra for it, sometimes it's just an upgrade, and they're just giving you the AI capabilities because they know that it's important, to have these capabilities. So sometimes you're getting the AI without even knowing it. So that's what's going to be, dripping down into the SMBs. They're not going to go out and buy a large language model. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But when they get their contact center solutions from whichever vendor, some of the AI will be embedded into it. So that's how it's going to happen.
So Blair, and this is going to go kind of two-part here, at least as my thoughts are coming together. One, to address the one question about where we see kind of the Copilot and Teams integration going in the future. Because as you're talking, like, you're not going to go out and buy AI. In the Copilot sense that Microsoft just announced, that's an add-on that supplements an already deployed solution that allows the user to now lean on, whether they understand AI or not, lean on its capabilities to assist in maybe menial tasks or tasks that just aren't enjoyable. I know for me, I can't wait for it because there's a ton of stuff I'm going to go make AI do. But my question is going to come back to, do you see down the road, could be 2 years, could be 5 years, do you see a day coming where AI becomes so integrated as part of the solution that, the cost model essentially becomes non-existent because it's just, as a business, say Microsoft, it just has to be offered because it's the new normative way of functioning?
Absolutely. And the vendors are already, putting AI capabilities in right now. As I said, some of them aren't even charging for it. It's just sort of, you get the next release, you get these AI capabilities built in. Some of the generative stuff, with all that's going on with the pricing, with, the LLMs, and, that's pretty expensive right now. So that there might be cost for, but down the road, it's just going to be embedded. It's just going to be part of what you get. So, you need to upgrade to the next release. Okay, it's going to, have AI, and you might have to pay, this much more for it, or it'll be part of your subscription service or whatever. But everything is going to have AI down the road. There's no question about that.
Here's the big. Oh, go ahead, Brandon.
I was going to say that just kind of goes back to Rick, I think it was you saying, how does that trickle down into the SMB? I think that's probably a big way it's going to trickle down into that SMB is, right? It's going to be inherited at some point, right? Don't know if that's a year from now, 3 years from now, but eventually SMB is going to have their hands on AI and they're going to say, wow, this is pretty cool.
Well, here's oh, go ahead, Blair.
I was going to say, and again, it's not that they're going to be looking for AI. It's just going to be, I'm looking for workforce management and it's AI enabled, or I'm looking for something to, for a knowledge base, well, that's going to be AI enabled. So they're just going to be looking for the capabilities that they need that, by the way, are going to be, embedded with AI.
Yeah, that's why I feel so strongly that the spearhead for this, and I'm going to bring this back to everything Teams Phone Live. The spearhead for this, I think, is your phone system as an organization. When you start a business, you go and you're like, okay, I've got an EIN with the IRS. I've got a bank account now that I've turned up, and now I need a phone number and some email addresses, to sort of start my business. And so I feel like that spearhead and that sort of that anchor for the I'll call it for all business, but for the mid market and the SMB particularly, right? There's a phone system that's needed in that organization, and a communication system, I'll say, of some sort. There's a communication system that's needed, and as you start to embed different solutions into that communications, that's part of why the contact center solutions are so big when they're UCaaS and CCaaS together, right? When you've got a phone system that's as ubiquitous as Microsoft Teams, as an example, and as additional solutions start to come out that bolt on to Microsoft Teams, that's when you start to sort of really you kind of what's the term when you're like in a whale's wake, like you're in the wake of the whale, right? So you kind of ride that wake in as the solution providers for Teams phone solutions, and I feel like that's going to be an easy way for consumers, for small businesses and that medium business to really grasp onto solutions that will have embedded AI, whether it is a contact center solution that's attached to Teams, or whether it's some sort of a messaging engagement platform that's attached to Teams. Today, people don't even know Teams has got like 1,900 apps in their app store. Most administrators, and if you ask Brandon, just because he's an administrator, most of the administrators have everything locked down really tight, so you don't really get to see that. But they're out there, so it's not quite as visual as an Android store or the Play Store or the App Store. So not quite as visual, but it's there. There's 1,900 applications that are built into Teams that are going to start delivering, I think, on a lot of these sort of AI promises. I do think it's going to be a couple of years though. But for the big organizations, you see this today, and you'd be surprised at how much they're using AI today. I look at, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but I look at Alexa as kind of the old school sort of start of language model sort of communication, right? Large language model communication, because I say something to Alexa and I order my Nespresso coffee pods. I ask it to turn some of my cameras on or my light switches on and off, and my home's probably I've got bit nerdy, so I like stuff like this. So I like go put some switches in. So it's a bit different, but that seems to me like it's been around for a bit, and it's in the consumer, in some way, shape, or form. But businesses now are going to need that communication sort of spearhead, and I think it's Teams myself. Brandon, or sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, even when we're doing meetings and things, we don't think about AI, but noise cancellation. And I see, Brandon, you have your name up there, or we all have our names up there. So when you're in a meeting, the AI can identify who you are and have your name. So we're using AI and all this stuff now. We're just not. Again, we're not going out there and saying, I want AI. These things are being built into the tools that we're using. And that's happening with Teams, and it's happening with everything. So, the noise cancellation, the virtual backgrounds, all these things have AI as part of it. And we don't think about it. And that's just going to keep happening. And it's just going to be part of what we do.
And to me, that's a pretty interesting perspective, because obviously I come from a very technical background. And so I'm very much in the weeds of wanting to know the details. But I think that's great insight for the consumer to understand that AI is very important, but it's not important to the consumer in the sense that they just want the solution. Right? They're just looking for, give me the feature that works. And this goes back to the conversation about where do we get in 2 to 3 years is AI even going to be a buzzword at that point? Or is it just going to be so ingrained in how we develop solutions that it's not really the conversation point anymore?
I was having a discussion with someone on LinkedIn like a week ago, and they were talking about having that .ai at the end of an address, and they said we don't need to do that anymore because everything's going to be AI. And it's like, that's what I've been saying about as a service. like, and like Salesforce used to be Salesforce.com. Well, you don't need the .com because everything was .com. Same thing with as a service. You don't need to say that anymore because everything's going to be as a service. And the same exact thing is going to happen with AI. Everything is just going to have it. So why, call it out?
Identify it. Right. Brandon, that's interesting. Let's, I want to give you an opportunity, Brandon. You took I don't know, 30 minutes or so to build some sort of chat bot in Teams for the crowd, for our listeners to see. And I thought that'd be pretty interesting. I mean, we're in the midst of it all now. So it'd be interesting if you told us, kind of what does it take and what did you do and sort of, what does it look like and how is it provided? I know it's a team. Is it a Teams thing or is it a Microsoft application?
Yeah. So what I built was just, it's the virtual agent power app that Microsoft provides. Right. And I don't know if your intent is for me to show it, but, as I do with many things, when I'm first learning something, it's kind of like click, 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 and just, let's see what we can do. And I actually confessed to you, Rick, yesterday or the day before that I actually used Copilot to generate the chat flow, right? So I created the virtual bot, and then I'm like, now what do I do with it? And Copilot pops up on the side and said, hey, describe what you'd like, and we'll go build it for you. So I just typed in, hey, I'd like to build a sales ordering process for Rick Garcia, and I want it to support these products. And it went and it built out the whole chat logic of, hey, what do you want to order? How many users do you want? Great. I'm going to add that to your order. And, I'm oversimplifying it, but Microsoft really does, maybe other companies do this too, but Microsoft provide a pretty robust and easy to use environment to get your chatbot from zero to functioning in just a few clicks. And then obviously there's this whole, that's the tip of the iceberg, right? Then we got to go under and we got to solve for the entire iceberg for the solution. But, someone that's well-versed in it is going to know exactly what they need to go do to bring true life to that chatbot.
Well, that's a good sort of segue into where do you see Copilot integration with Teams going in the future? Because that's a question that someone that I think Oliver has brought up, and so that's the interesting comment, Brandon, about Copilot, because I do have an announcement for that in case the listeners don't know, and I'm sure the listeners are intently watching for notifications from Microsoft on when Copilot is going to be available. But if you haven't seen it or heard it, you've heard it here first. Then. November 1st, Copilot will be available for general consumption, a general availability at that point. So November 1, mark your calendars so that you can go pay Microsoft $30 a month so that you can have access to Copilot as well. was that a
$30 a month?
Yeah. Less than a cup of coffee a day. You could have Copilot.
I always like adding, this is dumb, but I always like adding batteries sold separately.
There you go. Well, that's, so Copilot's the battery. No, that's, well, where does Copilot fit in this? And Brandon, you just told us about it. So I think it's only fitting you kind of, what are your thoughts on where it fits for customer service as an example and automation?
I mean, it's huge. It's this, uncharted territory in my mind in the sense that obviously I have not had my hands on it more than a day, right? I just got my hands on Copilot. So it's very hard for me to start to socialize with our audience, all the things that we think it can do. But, one example that I've been playing around with is Copilot integrated with the CRM as a sales tool, right? So I'm a sales agent, I'm working on deals, and I get an inbound call from a prospect that isn't necessarily someone I'm working with, but that call comes in, I answer it, the opportunity comes up or the deal comes up, and now I've got Copilot, and I showed this to you, Rick, I've got Copilot sitting on the side that I don't even have to engage Copilot. Copilot reads all of the details on that opportunity, summarizes it all for me in bullet points, gives me the key talking points. And this is true of an email too, if I get that email inbound versus a phone call. And then I can start to interact with Copilot. Like if I don't see something, I can ask Copilot, hey, I didn't see where the quote was introduced or where it was sent. And so Copilot can go out, find the quote, give it to me, and then I can take that and immediately respond back to the customer. I mean, I think it's just, again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's going to streamline and simplify and reduce the customer touch point. So overall, it's going to increase customer satisfaction because you can deliver almost instantaneously for the customer.
And it can also cut down on, customers aren't going to need to reach out to contact centers as much because they'll be able to use things like Copilot to get the information they need and to fix problems, so that they're not going to need to even reach out to the contact center or to the company to get the information.
Yep. Yeah, and even if it's back end, there's, like, I was playing around with the virtual chatbot. There, I can plug that into Copilot, and now as the customer, I could potentially say, "Hey, I misplaced the quote for my deal. Can I get it?" And now there's zero human interaction, right? Copilot can go out, grab it, validate it, and provide it back to the customer. And that, again, that's a sales scenario. There's tons of scenarios we could talk about.
That's interesting though, because sales is one of those areas where, every organization that's got, their website up there. I mean, people are looking for new opportunities, and, sales is one of those environments where I wonder how much AI will play a part in sales. Now I see it, and I think it's going to be a massive part of a sales, or delivering information. And my question is more around, do you see AI replacing sales? Does sales become self-service at some point? Do you still need that human interaction to kind of make you feel good about where you're spending your money? What do you think, Blair? How's AI going to impact the sales sort of field? I already know, like, from a customer service perspective. I mean, we'll talk about what we think that's going to happen there for businesses. But what do you think in sales?
Well, I think it is similar to what we're seeing in customer service, in that it's not going to replace the agents. It's not going to replace the salespeople. It's going to augment them. It's going to assist them. It's going to help them do their jobs better and, be more effective. So it'll help them make more sales. It's not going to replace them. Again, there'll be, people will be able to do more on their own. But again, you want that touchy-feely. You want to be able to, trust. You can't trust a bot as much as you can trust a person.
Right.
At least not today. So if it's, a big item, you want to be able to interact with somebody and, really get that good feeling. So salespeople aren't going away for a long time.
Yeah, it's like a double positive for businesses. Sorry, Brian, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I was just going to say that's like a double win for businesses, isn't it? It's like super, the productivity that you get out of someone. Number one, you probably, and I hate to say this, but you probably save more because you don't need as many people to do everything that you could potentially handle, right? And number two, you're getting more sales, right? You have more engagement with your customers or prospective customers. So that's like a double win for organizations from a productivity level perspective. Yes.
It's actually a triple win, because it also makes the employees more satisfied with their jobs, because the AI is going to take away some of the boring, mundane tasks that they don't really like. So whether it's, a customer service agent, a salesperson, someone using Teams, whatever, they're not going to have to do a lot of this boring stuff. The AI is going to automate it and do it for them. So people can concentrate more on, making more sales or helping more customers or doing their jobs, so they get more job satisfaction. And so it really is a win-win for everybody.
That really is, because that high level engagement is really where you get to spend your time, right? High level engagement where, you're sharing sort of intellect and knowledge and really kind of transferring the goodness of whatever it is you've got that you're selling onto the prospective buyer. Sorry, Brian, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, and I think Microsoft has done a really phenomenal job at being very intentional about how they go to market with at least their Copilot strategy, right? Obviously, just look at the name Copilot, right? And this, CTO of Microsoft, or CEO of Microsoft, has been very clear about their intent isn't to remove jobs. It's to help with the mundane, trivial tasks that take up a large chunk, when you look at a whole organization, take up hours and hours of time for those resources, when AI can come in, automate most of that. And now it's just checkpoints to factualize the data or whatever you need to do with it. That's what I like about what Microsoft is doing from a branding and marketing perspective, to say, hey, this is a tool for you. This is not a replacement.
Yeah, and as you said, it's called Copilot. It's not called Pilot. It's there to help and assist.
It is going to be, you know how we have right now this customer service where you start off customer service with AI and automation, and then you sort of, I'm not going to say auto magically just yet, because there's still that clunkiness that we talked about in the middle when there's a transfer off to that engagement. But whenever you've got, I guess, the start of an interaction, it's like high level. If you're sales out there and you're thinking about this, you know, that high level sort of demand gen and funnel sort of, you know, funnel opportunities starts to kind of get in and engage. It'd be interesting to see what that transition looks like, right? From AI into here's a real person now on the other end that you're engaging with. That would be, if you made that process nice and smooth from a sales perspective, that would be really, really interesting, because, you know, demand gen, and you can generate all the leads you want, but how do you sort through all that? How do you provide a lot of information at one time to deliver to those to those prospective customers, and then make that transition? That's going to be pretty exciting to see those tools. I love sales. That's my background. So it's like that sort of thing gets really exciting for me. Let's talk about for a moment automation, because we really, you know, automation and AI, you kind of think of hand in hand, but there's some really interesting tools that allow businesses to automate, and it's not as complex as businesses may think. Blair, what do you see out there from an automation perspective?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing, you know, again, a lot of the background things that agents have to do, you know, whether it's filling out forms or, you know, the call summarization, you know, the wrap up work. Automation is really helping with that, and, you know, not doing all of it, but doing a lot of it, and taking a lot of the grunt work away from the agents, or, you know, from salespeople too, you know, where you have to, you know, write up your notes and, you know, all that. So the automation is definitely taking away a lot of the things that people just don't like doing. So again, it goes back to improving the worker experience, because they don't have to do all that boring stuff, and the automation is doing it for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like you said, it's going to be embedded into whatever application or whatever tool that you're using as your customer engagement tool, or your, you know, workforce management tool, or your, you know, or your phone system, as it were. Brandon, in the Microsoft ecosystem, Microsoft has a Power application, right? That handles some of this stuff.
I mean, they've got the thing about Microsoft is, you know, they're a massive ecosystem, and it takes a minute to kind of get your brain wrapped around what all they offer. But when you start to understand the opportunity, say, take your Teams client and you enable phone service on it, and then you start to understand how you can tie that to what they're calling Flow, which is Power Automate, and to the Power Apps and Power Platform, and then ultimately ACS, which is their Azure Communication Services. You know, a lot of opportunity starts to open up on what, you know, anything you can imagine becomes possible, right? But again, it comes down to understanding it, having the resources to do it. And I think that opens up an opportunity for, you know, companies to come and develop solutions, right? Whether it's automation solutions or it's AI-based solutions, to come in and bolt on top of your services, whether it's a phone service through Teams or whatever. It's Microsoft is definitely going to be, I think, a huge pioneer in kind of the how you bring all services into, I'll call it, a ubiquitous experience.
Whereas I was going to say, it's also about workflows, which you kind of alluded to. You know, it's not just having these standalone, you know, applications and capabilities. It's tying everything into the workflow, and that's where I think, you know, you and Microsoft and others can really bring all these things together, because you don't want just these silos and these standalone capabilities. You want to have everything flowing together as part of, you know, the overall workflow, and that's where I think things are missing right now, and things need to be tied together more.
Yeah, and I think we're brilliant. Yeah, we're coming from a world where it's been silos, and we've spent, and I've come from this environment where you spend a lot of internal hours and resource time, or you're paying companies to bring your different disparate systems together to create that unified workflow. Whereas I think what I'm seeing in the Microsoft ecosystem is, even if it's an ancillary product that's being bolted on, let's say contact center, it's automated in the sense that a few clicks of a button, I can have it already and automatically tied into my Teams phone system. I don't have to sit and figure out, okay, how do I take I'll pick on Cisco. How do I take my Cisco phone system and tie it to Nice in Contact or whatever from a contact center perspective? Microsoft is creating avenues to automate that entire, setup journey to get to a ubiquitous, unified experience.
And it does become part of the agent workflow, because from within Teams, they can, click on, they can see, who's in queue and everything. So they really do bring it together so that it is all together, part of one in the interface that the customer or that the agent is used to using and is comfortable with.
Exactly. Yeah.
Blair, there's a term I think I've heard you use, the collaborative contact center, where what does that mean?
Yeah, so we talk about the integration of unified communications, or UCaaS, and contact center, or CCaaS. So we've been talking about that a lot, and for a long time. So the typical example would be, I'm a contact center agent and someone calls and I don't have all the information that they need, and I need to reach out to a subject matter expert. So, using Teams or something, I can, see the presence of, the subject matter expert, see that they're available, maybe click to chat with them and say, hey, I've got, a customer, I need this information, can you help me? And while the agent is still talking to the customer, they can get the information from the subject matter expert. What's happening now, because we have things like Teams and, other collaborative tools, we can go beyond just like that, chat session to a real collaborative session where maybe, work together in, a Teams channel and, have the agent, the customer, the subject matter expert, or multiple experts working together to solve the customer problem. So they can share documents, they can, maybe be on video and, share information so that, and really collaborate to solve the customer problem.
Oh, that's interesting. So now I see it now. So the collaboration, you're internally in the knowledge base is collaborating to deliver the information to the person that's looking for it. That's really interesting. We do make it, I think the tools that are out there now do make it easier and easier for you to adopt as an organization that sort of collaborative tandem or, team environment where you can deliver all the knowledge that you need into a particular customer with a group approach. Yeah. Are you seeing that more and more then?
Starting to, yeah. I think because we are seeing more integration between UC and CC, that customers are able to do that a little more easily now. So this is something I've been talking about since the late 90s, and it was before the cloud and before a lot of the tools that we have now. But because everything, is in the cloud and can be more seamlessly integrated together, we are definitely starting to see it more. And, things like Teams, where you can see the presence of, the subject matter expert and just reach out to them easily. We're definitely starting to see it more, and I think it'll continue happening.
What a good approach for customer service. If you think about contact centers, in the day where, it's like, okay, you solve this problem in this much time and you've got time allocated to solve a problem, or maybe not allocated, but the idea is to shrink the amount of time that someone spends with someone so that they can take more calls. Well, if you flip the script with some AI and you kind of handle the low level sort of easy questions and easy support issues with that, then your team is now available to handle more complex, more engaged, opportunities or issues with your customers. That's a pretty interesting approach. And I wonder if with the intelligence that we've got now with AI and automation, if we can see more and more of that lend to, better customer service across whatever industry, you're working in. That would be pretty interesting. I like the concept.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone's been talking about AI handling, the repetitive, what are your operating hours? Where's my package types of things, so that when a customer talks to an agent, it's for the more complex issues or things that require more empathy and, really talking to an agent as opposed to, just something you can get through AI.
Interesting. Brandon, any thoughts?
No, I was going to say, just going back into my contact center days, and we were talking about, the presence of collaboration, right? Being able to see if I call it back office worker, right? Not necessarily the contact center agent, but someone I need to reach out to is available. I mean, it's 2023 and we've still got probably thousands and thousands of contact center agents that are sitting out on legacy contact center solutions where, they're on one solution and their back office workers or their SG&A workers are on a whole other phone system. And so there's always been, or traditionally there's been this kind of this gap that lives between the agent and the knowledge worker. And it's always been a challenge, at least from my experience, on how you bridge that gap of how do I get that agent in contact with the knowledge worker when they're on two different systems. And I think especially when you look at the Teams ecosystem and you bring in a deep extended integrated contact center model, I now bring my whole entity into one unified solution. Now I'm chatting with them, I'm talking to them, I'm conferencing them in. It's all right there. And I think that's going to be it's also going to become the new norm as we move forward, right? It's just getting these people to go upgrade their systems with time to get them to see, oh my goodness, the efficiencies that we're gaining from this is unreal. That alone is going to bring customer satisfaction, because there's not a hold on while I try to call someone on a different phone system and bridge them into this call.
Or hang up, let me call you back after I get the information.
Yep.
And by then you've already lost the customer.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. This has been such a good topic. Like this is, AI and automation we've stayed away from a little bit when we're talking about Teams. There's Copilot's not hasn't been out yet. So for us to kind of go through and talk about it, we'd only be talking about what we see and having firsthand knowledge now. It's exciting to be able to kind of go through it a little bit and see what it can do. I mean, like I said, Brandon built the chatbot in a half hour, and I thought it was really good because I went through this buying process for our services, and it was like, well, that's pretty good. And he just it was not a lot of low code, no code. It was pretty quick to deploy. Well, that's we're headed towards the top of the hour. I'd like to Blair, any final comments on automation, AI, maybe some last minute predictions on anything?
Don't fight it. It's going to be part of what we do. So, what is it? Learn to love it. But it's going to take a while. And, just like when chatbots were first introduced a long time ago, or, however long, they kind of sucked at first and we didn't really like them, but they got better. And the same thing is going to happen with AI. We're going to have some problems, a lot of trial and error, but it's going to get better, and it's going to help everyone do their jobs better.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. I think you've really kind of laid out what people could expect to see and how people are engaging and how businesses are starting to tackle some of those those technologies to help their customer. So that's been really exciting to walk through it. And then Brandon, as always, from a Microsoft perspective, kind of tying this all into Copilot and Power Automate or Flow, and delivering sort of efficiencies and productivity gains into the organizations that do take down Microsoft Teams. We always talk about Microsoft Teams as being the hub, the business hub communication platform of some of the 300 million plus daily users, and that's a hugely ubiquitous platform that we get excited about because we're such big proponents of it. We use it every single day, and it's exciting to talk about. So Blair, I want to say thank you very much for joining us and providing your time to us to walk through this with our audience. Brandon, thanks for building the chat bot as a quick sort of let's see how it works. I thought that was really cool. And that's really it. I'm real quick announcement. Mr. Matt Slaga, if you're still on, and I'm sure I said it wrong, but that headset right there, you'll have to DM us. You are the winner because we kicked off on a topic that we stayed on for a long time. So the SPH71 Pro from Yealink will make its way into your mailbox. So Matt, shoot us a note so we can get your details and have that delivered to you. And Brandon, I think
make sure to opt out of Rick Garcia's promos. so he doesn't spam you.
No, I'm getting Copilot to send him an email after email after email, ready to go. Okay, everyone, that's wrap. We're at the top of the hour. That's episode 35 of Everything Teams Phone Live with Blair Pleasant. Thank you so much for your time, Blair, and everyone. Thanks so much for watching. Yeah, that's a wrap.
Have a great weekend.